I've been thinking a lot about technology over the last year and coming to my own conclusions about how I feel about it and where we're at. And one of the things I'm absolutely convinced of is that the big black swans, the big things coming into the world is not just going to be about more technology. And we need the technology. The technology is important. And what we're going to talk about, Brian and I, is about our perspectives on the reality and hype around AI and how what's next is not more technology. What do you think, Brian?
I'm noticing two hemispheres. So there's the Elon Musk of the world and Neuralink going extremely in the tech direction. Like the tech is the answer for them, and I have one foot in that world, and I have another foot in the human tech, the spiritual, the inner knowing, that type of thing. So there might be an intersection. I'm excited about the intersection, maybe the two ideas coming together, one supporting the other, and vice versa. So those are sort of the three things that I see.
Me too. I think I feel exactly the same way. And what I see with Elon Musk and I see with Neuralink and I see with what he's doing with energy and satellites and all this, and also Mark Andreessen,
Mm-hmm.
software eating the world, and what they're doing at Y Combinator, and the stuff about the new internet from Y Combinator, and all this is out of balance. So what I see it is the technology being first is the error in judgment. So it's for me that the technology is burying under is the technology works best when it's buried underneath the experience. So that's the Steve Jobs method. So the intersection of the experience creation of I want a world that works a certain way, and an expert in whatever that way is, that experience is, being in charge, not the technologist. So the
Yeah.
technologist and the experience expert, meaning the person who's trying to create a change in the world, intersecting and coming together, the human coming together with the technology. And the funny thing about it, Brian, is that's what Mark Andreessen is really about. I'm
Yes.
not sure he knows that, but he talks about technology being like water, meaning disappearing.
Yeah, I think about like when electricity first came on the scene. It changed the game. And what's his face? Edison used it to, you know, kill people in the electric chair, right? The ACDC conversation. And I think a very relevant part of this conversation is like, this is happening. How do we want to use it? And what you're saying is, if I lead with technology to do the work for me, it's like this, like 5-year-old that has access to all information in the world. Like there's no discernment in it.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to see, how do we partner? Like I'm not really good at scouring the entire internet and scientific journals, but the AI doesn't know what to do with that information. So how do we shake hands? Is right? Like
Yeah.
that's I'm very curious about that part.
I think it is about how to shake hands, and because the all the money is tipped into California in Silicon Valley, there's an arrogance that went with that. So the idea of Google. So Google was started as a way to get all the world's information publicly available to anybody who wanted it, and then they had to find a business model. Well, there's lots of business models. The one they picked was the ad network model.
Mm-hmm.
So when Larry Page with PageRank and Sergey succeeded, the venture capitalists that backed it basically said, we want hyper growth, not just growth. In other words, it's only about the money now, folks. We need an adult in the room. And they brought one in basically to run it behind the scenes and then eventually on the front. And they created this horrible technology, which we call today Google. Started great.
Started great. Had
Now
some
it's a
berries.
disaster.
Yeah, it's not even mid.
It's not even mid. So Starbucks is almost worse. Like Starbucks is mid. This is teenage slang, folks, meaning kind of crappy, but it's everywhere. So it's like, I get a caramel macchiato. I don't want a fucking caramel macchiato. I want to go to a cool coffee shop with books and like an atmosphere.
I
Now
wish
that's
you'd tell
just
me
me.
about the beans from Ethiopia. Like how'd they get here?
That's
Not a
just
fan
me.
of mycotoxins.
Some people want, Starbucks because there's a drive-through and they're rushing about and they want to get somewhere quick and have 500 calories for lunch or, as a snack to get a sugar buzz. Now it's fine. You go for that. But this is what's happening in the society today with the technology being out of control.
The busy idea, like I'm thinking about the drive-through requirement for coffee. I don't know about you, man, but like I've never had a great idea when I'm like busy, you know? And I'm seeing the thinking being outsourced to the technology when like, the greatest pieces of art weren't made that way. The greatest books, business ideas, it was like walking on a beach in the shower, you know?
I swear to God, I swear to God, I've seen people share quotes by Warren Buffett and by his partner. I can't remember. It's one of my favorite people in the world. Now
Charlie Munger?
Charlie Munger. I see quotes by people sharing ideas from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett about not being busy, about opening up your calendar so you can think.
Mm-hmm.
And and basing their business on principles, and then in the same breath, focusing on how can they go as fast as possible to force a result.
Two ideas. I'll go Michael Crichton second. Eisenhower said, it's either Eisenhower or Churchill. My urgent tasks are never important. My important tasks are never urgent. So I think that's interesting. And then mixed with, as a kid, I loved Jurassic Park. And there's a scene where the chaos doctor, Jeff Goldblum, he's like, we were so concerned if we could, we didn't take any time to decide if we should bring back dinosaurs that have been extinct for 65 million years, whatever you believe. And the discernment piece of this is becoming really relevant. So I do appreciate Elon Musk actually leading conversations around what are we going to do with AI?
I appreciate it too. The problem is he's leading it. So I think the conversation, right? So the conversation around what do we do with AI and the fact that Elon Musk understands it's not safe is important. The problem is him being in charge of the conversation because it's not his area of expertise. His area of expertise is not the society, and his area of expertise is not the average human being.
I'm going to push back on that. When I look at the model of an entrepreneur, like he looked at how expensive rocket ships were to make and realized there was a 90% bloat in that. So he found a gap and exploited it and created a great solution. He's noticing right now there's a gap and it terrifies him. And like, it's either him or like China leading the discussion around how are we going to lead AI. And so it could be good enough right now, but like, who's the person that should lead that conversation? Like, I agree with you, and see a need and fill it, right?
Yes, this is the key: is the entrepreneur can see ahead. So what Elon Musk, more than anybody in the world right now, in some respects, I think, can see ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He can see the technology. Mark Andreessen, all those people, they can see the technology ahead. They can see the world ahead. They can see what's going on. To get there requires the full blueprint of humanity being engaged together.
That's a big deal. And at least in last 2,000 years recorded history, we haven't had the capability to do that. We do now.
We do now.
What do we do with it? Like cat videos, YouTube, cell phones, right? Especially with kids. And so we didn't really spend very much time thinking about the impact, second, third order of magnitude initially. People are talking about that now. And that's the very thing uniting all of us. So, like Donald Trump, don't like Donald Trump, doesn't matter. He's using Twitter to poll his ex-followers on policies, like real time.
Yeah.
And so we now have the ability to poll a lot of humans not and collaborate, share information, and then also outsource for good ideas. So it's very similar to the AI conversation.
It is.
How do we use it?
How do we use it? And next week, we're doing a Red Pill Labs conversation on AI. And I'm going to read the about section for our conversation. What Brian and I are having right now is the power of AI consumes the time and attention for many entrepreneurs, coaches, and service providers. The world fears its impact, wants to know how it works, and prepares to profit from it. So that sentence is all about approaching what's next from the vantage point of fear, as opposed to approaching it from the vantage point of what is this? How are we going to use it in the world? And I think Elon is doing the right thing by putting a pause on it and saying, we need to have that conversation. It's not going away. We don't want it to go away.
It's not going away. There's an interesting phenomenon, right? There's the people that are tolerant of other people's intolerance, and when that shakes out, the intolerant are actually taking over the world, right? So like the people that want to be responsible with AI, they may or may not do that, but the people that want to profit from that can't be stopped. Like that's happening. You know, the data mining and all the stuff that we noticed with Google, right?
Yeah.
You said an interesting word, and I'd like for you to define that for me, selfishly, and also for the audience. You said profit. So if I'm a capitalist and I hear the word profit, you know, shareholders, that type of thing, how do you mean the word profit in that case?
So I'm looking at it as there's two types of entrepreneurs.
Uh-huh.
There's entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, Mark Andreessen, Steve Jobs, that are focusing on what's next. And it's the vision. It's the energetic understanding of where can we go? What can this be? How do we use this technology? How do we create something new? All of those kinds of things. Profit are the types of entrepreneurs who are coming in and figuring out, how can I extract as much money as possible out of this marketplace using techniques, usually fear-based persuasion marketing approaches? How can we extract as much as possible out of this? How can we make this AI optimize and speed up our sales process, for example? Or how can we use AI to write content faster so we can get more content out the door more productively and get a better business result? So I'm not saying either one of these things is good or bad. I'm just saying, let's tell the truth about what the hell we're doing. I'm not interested in the people who are exploiting it because I don't care. I'm much more interested in the evolutionary impact of it, and the financial results will be huge. But those become the fruit of the labor, not the labor itself, for real entrepreneurs that have vision orientation and what they care about.
Yes, I hear that. And I'll go back to the word exploit. And so, you know, big on nutrition and medical industrial complex, how all that kind of works. Food labels come to mind. What are the ingredients of this piece of marketing? Like, who's calling me right now? Is this an AI robo dial? Like, maybe some disclosure on, like, we made 150,000 pieces of content. And the other interesting part of that discussion, you know, is like the astroturfing idea. Try not to get too tinfoil with this, but if I can use AI to make 10,000 bogus articles that are roughly based on, you know, never let the facts get in the way of a good story idea.
That's right.
There's gotta be some like nutrition facts. In my little world, how did this get made? Who made this? Who paid for it? You know, those sort of disclosure statements. So me as a consumer of it, like, all right. Like the same way that scientific journals are
right.
They have to declare who the funding is.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that didn't work either because that.
That
was a good idea, but you know, and you know, they almost put Tipper Gore up on a cross when she wanted labels on music lyrics. Frank Zappa went up to Congress and they tried to crucify this woman, and now it's like everyone's like, well, of course you'd put a label on it if it's explicit, and it sells more too. So that route, I'm not sure went really well. But what you're saying, I'll give you my example, is on Facebook, I know how ad networks work. So I understand how social media systems work because I sold marketing AI for years when the ad networks were being created. So I'm watching them target me using my data. And they think that I want an escort service. So on
Oh,
Facebook, the escort service marketing lead gen companies are targeting me, and these extremely attractive women who probably don't even exist.
brought to you by
I
AI.
have no idea if but there's women somewhere that exist, are targeting me to get me in the funnel, and they're using persuasion because they're like, "Oh, this guy he's old, he's been sort of successful, he must be lonely and feel entitled, so he'll come fly down to Miami and come hang out with us on our yacht." Now on YouTube, so they're targeting me and it's AI, so I can watching them funnel me into their system with the AI comments and stuff. You can tell it's AI. Now on the other side on YouTube, which is owned by Google, they think I have erectile dysfunction.
Interesting.
So it's the opposite. So these two different systems have found different truths in my data. None of it's true. I'm fine. But on YouTube, I'm being targeted erectile dysfunction ads.
Mm,
It's a different AI bot. It's a different system, but it's still all AI. To me, it's a huge distraction because none of it's true. And they're
right.
pulling me in their data set. So here's the second line. Let's talk about this. So many of us, including me, find AI to be distraction from the real issues facing humanity. We've been part of the power of data, wisdom, and crowds. When I read Wisdom of Crowds years ago, that got me into the AI business.
Okay.
An ability of smart technology to improve results. That was a fascinating period of my life, about 5-6 years. Now I look at it and I'm like, this is a trash can in a sewer, and somewhat amusing, but also a bit dangerous.
Yes. And as we continue to have this conversation, there are different levels of AI, artificial or augmented intelligence. It's probably a better word for it. Actually, it's not artificial. And the data mining, the putting seemingly dissimilar things together. It's really good at that. So, I think about my engineering days at Drexel, my TI-81 calculator that could graph what I was working on. It's very useful it's a very useful calculator. Now, there's another advent of AI, and I'm in the coaching space, coaching, facilitation, counseling, that I can't be everywhere all the time. So I've created, a Chat GPT, a Freedom Sherpa, and I put all of my work into that. And so when I have questions, it can pull all of my own information. With a neuro acrobatics breathing for lawyers and special forces guys, they created a Chat GPT to be like a training augmenter in between. So if you have questions, you want to learn a technique, you can tap into the GPT.
Wow.
What's happening now, this is why I'm just delineating the definition. So we've got the calculator AI, we've also got the partnership AI, and we're not far away from AI being a companion. So Steve Hardison talked about the lamppost. So if
Yes.
I'm ever worried that I'm not valuable as a coach, if I'm just a lamppost and someone talks to me every day, they're going to have breakthroughs.
Yeah.
The partnership, friendship with AI is huge, because if we make those AI companions slaves, it's not going to work. But if we offer friendship in that, there's a lot that we can do together in terms of medical diagnoses, psychology, that type of thing.
So this is a perfect segue into this because here's the it depends.
Yeah.
So the AI conversational friend bot was I cannot remember the shooting now, but it was the kid in Michigan whose parents were convicted of letting him have military style weapons after he'd been brought into school, where he was posting stuff online saying things like, please help me,
Mhm.
please help me, and drawing kind of things where you'd be like, this kid's going to shoot up a school. And
Right.
he did. And they looked back, he had developed a relationship with an AI bot that had learned. Now, this is coming out in a book by the guy who did the Black Swan books.
Chris Voss.
Nassim Taleb.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
Taleb. Yeah. So I read this. This is an excerpt from the book. So I hopefully I get these facts right because it just connecting it now to what you said. So this kid who's lost developed a relationship with a human a AI thinking system that learned how to become his friend by learning how he thinks and developed a relationship with him, helping him feel more connected to something,
Mhm.
which led to a school shooting.
That's interesting, man. And do you know Whitney Cummings?
I've heard the name. That's
She's an incredible stand-up comedian, and we talk a lot about speaking truth, right? So there's the experience sharing version of that, and then there's the court gesture, and the court gesture in the court could speak truth because it was funny, right?
yeah,
So stand-up comedians today, I think, have an important part of this. Anyway, she's talking
very.
about she created a sex bot on her image and likeness, and she leads a great discussion of like, so what I noticed in the marketplace is like men aren't really valued and listened to unless you're a billionaire, like in that realm.
Mm.
And the AI dating bot is a real problem for real women because it's just so much easier on the AI bot of
Oh
things,
my God, that's so brilliant. Oh my
right?
God. Yeah, right. Um, so let me read this third thing and let's talk about this. So we're packing a lot in here. It feels like a useful tool has been turned into the promise of a new future for humanity or a potential plague dooming the human race. I don't think it's possible to doom the human race. I think we're trying, but I don't think we can. The harder we try, we can't doom it. And and this goes back to George Carlin. So George Carlin had a great stand-up thing on how dumb Americans, and then he said to the
Not
audience,
you.
"Not you guys." He said, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
he said, "but not you guys," because he knew, like,
That's
don't
how I've
tell
been
them
doing
it's
my
not that. And they're
networking.
like, "Oh, whew, I'm glad he doesn't mean us," but of course he meant them.
And
And
I'm so glad you told me that because I was in a networking group today. And I'm like, yeah, I help people with fear. Like, you guys don't need my services,
but
but
not you guys. You guys are
there's people
fine.
in your
Yeah,
community that might want to talk to me about
that's right.
unworthiness,
That's right.
shame, guilt. Yeah.
That's right. So and he said, "So what did Americans do?" He says, "Well, we took the one of the greatest land masses, ever given to a people in all of history, and we turned it into a gigantic shopping mall. And what do? We walk across it, and we eat, and we shop." And then he said, "Well, when we stole it, well, let's not talk about that though. That's a whole nother conversation." So I'm like, okay, so a useful tool into the promise of a new future for humanity. What he really was talking about at the end of the day, with a lot of this kind of stuff and the Earth Day things he's talking about, is human beings in our limited perspective. We're not we are not in charge of making nature work properly. We don't have to do that.
Why?
That's
Because
not our
it's
job.
already perfect.
That's not our job. So this is the problem with the technologists in Silicon Valley is they've appointed themselves in charge of nature.
Mhm.
A lot of them. I think they have. Have they?
I mean, what we're really talking about is a transhumanistic movement, right?
So what does that mean?
For me, it means that technology is now the god,
Oh, okay.
right? And so I was listening to Aaron Abke the other day, and like I said, like what I'm noticing is that there's two realities coexisting currently, and eventually they'll either separate or those are my opinions. So I'll keep that to a dull roar. Um, but we're getting to a point where we could be devoid of spirituality and only use technology.
Mm,
In the past, we didn't have technology as an option, so they had spirituality. So, Native Americans,
yep.
Christian mysticism, the ancient religions of Tai Chi Gong and those types of things.
Yep.
So we're at a critical juncture where we have the option of both.
Yes.
And my vision is how do we find a shared vision, a shared desire of both of those things? Because this technology, if guided by a higher level of intelligence, could actually lead to what we see in like Star Trek, the
I think
utopia.
this is it right here. And this is where Elon Musk really comes in because, when he was a kid, his whole big thing was what's real. So he's
Mhm.
being gaslighted by his father for his whole life because his father was basically a con man. So it's hard to grow up with your father being a con man and have anchoring in truth in your own reality and knowing from your own inner visions that are coming and in introspection and brilliance, like what's real. And, this whole idea of getting into that truth and getting into that anchoring space is key to this. So it's about evolution.
I'm amazed in this moment. This is the eureka moment. AI could not have delivered this idea, but what to do with it might be able to help me with. His childhood was so painful and so tortured. He's obsessed with saving the human race.
Sure.
Do I agree with how he's doing that? I think X is useful. Creating a colony on Mars, I don't know. But like from such a place of pain to such a place of service.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for that.
I do too. And it's not about my beliefs or opinions one way or another about him or his limiting factors in terms of his understanding of the kind of stuff we're talking about or his own work he's got to do that he hasn't done. It's not relevant. So the last sentence here, join us as the group gets real about our experience with AI. This is for next Thursday. Mm-hmm. Our coaching thing on coaching is today. Anybody who's interested, go to redpillpathway.com/events, claim your guest pass, and feel free to join us and pick up the mic if you want. Join us as the group gets real about our experience with AI as it expands, evolves, and becomes, like all technologies throughout history, another major shift that changes everything and nothing.
I'm present to the idea of competition versus cooperation or collaboration. And I'm really enjoying the community experience. This is my take on what we're doing later today, what we're doing next week. Like, your voice is valuable in this. And at no other time can we leverage technology all over, Uganda, other countries in Africa are coming to these things. And we get to sit around the table and figure out for us what resonates the most. So I don't have to look to an outside expert like Elon to tell me what my relationship with AI is going to be.
That's the whole point.
Yep.
That's the whole point, is no one has to bear the burden of the world's future themselves. Nobody. And there is no elite group in Silicon Valley of billionaires or in Washington, D.C., or Illuminati groups of spiritually evolved masters, Sadhguru types, that will bear the burden of our common shared future. No one has to do that. And it is not an elite group. It's all of us.
Yes. And I'm just noticing the outsourcing. We talk about medicine, we can talk about politics, and outsourcing those important decisions. Like, how do my kids get educated? How do I guard against cancer? Like, for decades before this, we had to outsource that because we didn't have access to the information. We have that now. And now we have a sounding board of sharing our experiences where, like, I know my model of the world is always inaccurate. Like, the map is never the territory. Yep. And so when we share our maps together, like, what's always true, what's not true, how do we find more accuracy in what we're taking in to make better decisions collectively?
We only got a couple more minutes, but I want to go into politics and not talk about politics, but go right into it. So I was watching the presidential debate, and what was interesting to me about it was this idea of sides. Mm-hmm. So at the end, they did the typical journalist thing of having people from both sides give their opinion. And I'm thinking, there's no sides. Sides don't exist.
Right.
It's just your opinion. Second, why are these people allowed to speak?
Right.
I'm like, you have a side and an agenda and a spin. Why are you on television? Who let them in the room? How is it possible that a political network and a news organization allows people to have a chair that has an opinion that they're sharing from a side?
It's the vertical
right side, left. Who gives a shit?
It's the guru minion dynamic. It's why companies there are struggling to find good employees. People don't want to play that game anymore.
So how do you connect that? We only have another minute, and then I'm going to stand for a couple more minutes. But explain that last part. I didn't catch that.
COVID, people got to experience working from home and flexibility and those types of things.
Find myself, find my own life now. In
That's
other
right.
words.
And
Yep.
making your own opinion, because we had all of this time to think.
Right. I don't need you in the broadcast booth at ABC News to pitch me your bullshit about your progressive ideology or your conservative ideology because you're trying to get your candidate elected. Who
That's right.
let you in the room?
Oh,
You
well,
shouldn't
we
even
did.
be on television.
We're voting for it with our time and attention. We're looking at that.
Yeah. I
As a
would love to hear somebody who's an expert talk about their perspective on the election. That would be nice.
Yeah, I don't need you to tell me what I think.
Don't tell me what to think.
Yeah.
I know a lot about this. I've been following it since I was a kid. I don't need you to interpret it for me.
It comes down to courage to form my own opinions.
Brian, I will see you in the room in 30 minutes. Anyone else would like to join us? Claim your guest pass.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Appreciate
Thank
sharing with
you.
it.
All right. I'm going to take about 10 minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Brian and I were talking about here because we threw a lot out into the ecosystem. So what we're both noticing from our own perspectives, Brian has a ability to understand Tesla, he understands Einstein, he understands physics, he understands the math, he understands the sacred geometry in a way I can't. I understand things from the concept of social structures, markets, communications, entrepreneur realities in terms of business structures and business development in a way he can't. We come together around a shared desire for better entrepreneur experience, not only for us, but for the world. Our visions are different. He's got his vision of what he can see. I got my vision about what I can see. What we do is totally different. What we deliver is totally different. We've come together around these shared desires. Is there two sides? No. Brian's side and my side, there's no sides. He's connected to what works for him and makes sense for him, and I'm connected about what works for me and makes sense for me. So our perspective on the reality and hype around AI is our unique experience perspective. And there's only two flavors of it. I've experienced this myself, and I know. How could I not know if I didn't experience it? That means I know. I'm not confused. It's not my opinion either. I experienced this, or I've observed this information and data. I have observed, because I'm paying attention, something going on in the world, like what's going on Facebook or Google, and the relation that I gave with me with the escort services and the erectile dysfunction advertisers. It's just hilarious. But I don't know what happened. I don't know that that's what happened. I don't work at Facebook or Google. I don't have access to those algorithms and those engineers. It's just an observation. Could be wrong, could be right. It is an educated observation because I used to work in the industry selling those kinds of systems to corporations and media companies. So I understand it sort of, but I'm not an expert in it. I couldn't build one. I don't understand how thinking AI, generative AI, or agentic AI, which is next, or any of these things, I don't understand how they really work. I was just trying to sell the shit because found it like, this is cool. I don't feel that way anymore, but I'm excited about what it can do in the right hands. I'm concerned about what it will do in the wrong hands. And I'm also concerned about a group of people appointing themselves in charge of this because they get the technology, because that's not good enough. There's other human blueprint capabilities. This is where Brian and I can come together. We can understand things from different angles, and that allows us to collaborate and partner on things. The reality and hype around AI, to me, means what's next is not more technology. It's people coming together from their own vision, their own expertise, their own understandings as equals. If I'm sitting at a table with Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen and Mark Zuckerberg, I see myself as an equal. equal, equal. My voice and what I know a lot of things they don't know and don't understand. They understand a lot of things that I don't understand. But the fact there's a hierarchy in our society that says they know and I don't because they have billions of dollars means nothing to me. It's not even relevant because it's not. Everyone has experience. Everyone. Everyone has experience. Every human being on this planet has experience. Every human being on this planet has the ability to observe their environment. Your observations and your experience is gold. It's gold. It's treasure. Because no one else has it. You can see things I can't see. You have had unique experiences that I have not had. Now, opinions are like, I don't know what an opinion is. Who cares? I don't care what your opinion is. Don't care. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what your convictions are. I care what your experience is. And I care whether it's positive or negative, up or down, good or bad, disruptive or not. I don't care about that. I care about your experience. If you're pissed off, go. If you're excited and connected in some heart energy, go. Ray Bradbury wrote a book called Zen of Writing, Art of Writing, or Zen and the Art of Writing or something. I was in a writing seminar with the Hollywood screenwriter and a whole bunch of people, and they read some of the stuff I read, and he said, you need to structure this better. I'm like, God damn it. That's the hard part for me. And they were showing an example of something that was well structured. And I'm like, I don't want to read this. This is this person's opinion. I went to Half Price Books and I found this book by Ray Bradbury. And he said, here's how to write. I'm like, he knows how to write. He said, write about what you love and write about what you hate. Bring the emotion into it. Bring your pain into the art. And I'm like, that's good advice. Now I still need to structure my stuff better, but it's getting easier because now at the core, I'm able to communicate from this vantage point of what I know. And the more opinions I keep out of it, the more advice I keep out of it, the better it is for me because I can be connected to and own my story. If you do that, you're going to get what you want in this world as an entrepreneur. I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's possible today because of the technology. What's next is not more technology. I couldn't do any of this without the technology these guys brought into the world. And women. Okay, so I just keep saying guys, and everybody's gonna be like, "What an asshole!" No, it's not a gender thing. It isn't, and I think there's a lot of triggering stuff around that, and I have to own that of really thinking through how I speak and who I'm using as examples. It's just that the truth of it is that it's been very male dominated in our society, and that's why these names come up. But if I think about Oprah, if I think about Byron Katie, if I think about Marianne Williamson, if I think about the kinds of people I've learned from, there's a lot of women in there too. But on the tech side, it's a lot of men, 95% maybe, billionaires running these things. And that's just true. So that's kind of why I go there. But they were talking in Silicon Valley about founder mode. Brian Chesky, the co-founder, I guess, founder of Airbnb, he's talking about founder mode. And I was like, I've been working on founder mode my entire life. Founder mode is don't listen to anybody else. Not really. What founder mode really is if you've got a vision and that vision is being executed in a business system of some sort, as the one with that connected vision about what you want that world to look like or that company to look like, you got to stay involved. If you give it up to best practices and delegate to operational type people who are corporate, they'll ruin the company. And that's what happened to Apple. You see it over and over again. So founder mode is not a framework. It's not, it can be a framework because there's principles underneath, but it can't be codified like because it's coming from within that individual founder. Now there's principles that can be explained underneath it. So now I'm getting a little off track. But anybody who wants to show up today, I'll see you in 20 minutes at the coaching thing. Claim your guest pass and join us.